This is an interview with Mrs. O.L. Mitchell on March the 14th, 1956 at 1004 East Circle Drive.
I was Ruth Ligon, daughter of T.N. Ligon and Lenora Coulter Ligon. I was born at Hawksbar, south of Ardmore, in the late 1800s. I moved from Hawksbar to Newport, and we stayed a year. And then from there to near Graham, Oklahoma, where I was still a small child and don't remember too much about the activities and stuff going on. But anyhow, and we moved to near Graham, and my dad died in 1903, left mother, a widow, and 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. And we moved in down near Keller, Oklahoma, west of Ardmore, where I first started to school. And it was a store there, the Floyd Cladis store. And that's where we did our trading and, buying our groceries and so forth.
Well, Granny, what was your home life like?
Well, we didn't milk cows back then, or I didn't because I was too small, but we kids had the wood to carry in and chips and the water to get from the dug well or spring and come in and help Mother with the cooking and washing dishes.
Well, how did you preserve your food?
Well, we didn't can food back in those days, only fruits. We preserved fruits and made jellies and things like that, but we didn't can any fruits. Any vegetables. We didn't know how.
Well, you didn't you have butter and milk?
Oh, yes, we had butter and milk. Lots of it, and the way we kept it, we put it down in the well, dug well, to keep it good and cold, or on a table with wet cloths over it.
Well, how big was the house usually?
Well, when we lived at Keller, we lived in 2 log houses. They were quite a little distance apart. I'll say 4 or 5 foot apart, and the kitchen didn't have any floor in it, dirt floor. But the other room was just one big room and a window with a shutter on it was all. And
what kind of furniture did you have?
Well, we didn't have furniture much. Bedsteads, and I don't even think we had a dresser. Machine, and we had a homemade table out of 1x12s, and I had a bench at the back of the table that sit by the wall as the children sit on.
Well, how did you cook?
Well, we had a wood stove with 4 caps on it, and of course you girls of today don't know nothing about them kind of stoves, but we'd put our foods on there quite a little while before dinner and cook them and set them back on the back and let them stay good and hot.
Did you have a big fireplace?
Oh, yes. We had a big fireplace, kept the cut wood with what we'd call the backstick. And we'd cut a great big log and put in the back for a stick that lasts, a back stick that lasts for 3 or 4 days. We'd always have fire in the fireplace to build a fire the next morning.
Well, what were some of your daily chores?
Well, as I said, bringing in wood and chips when we were small was about all. And then, of course, after I got a little larger, we chopped cotton and picked cotton fall and spring.
Did you ever do much of the cooking?
Well, not till I got older. My mother got sick, and I did quite a bit. I did the biggest part of the cooking. I was the oldest girl, and I'd cook, and the others would go to the field and work, and I'd do the washing, carry my clothes to the pond or spring and do the washing.
Well, where would you hang your clothes?
Well, we would hang them on fences, barbed wire fences, and on brushes, piles of brush, and on bushes.
Well, didn't I get them dirty?
Well, we didn't know it if they did, but I'm sure they did. I wouldn't want to hang mine on them now, I'll tell you.
How often did you come into Ardmore to get supplies?
Well, we came in twice a year, fall and spring, to get groceries and dry goods mostly. That was our main thing, to come in to get dry goods, because we had our little country store out there at Keller, and we'd come in and get dry goods mostly.
Well, what was the best store in Ardmore?
Well, it was called the Blue Front. It was West Hammer and Dobby back in them days. That was the name of the store. Our first coat I ever had in my life, I bought it at the Blue Front.
Well, what was it like?
Well, I was so small I don't hardly remember. It's just an old a box building with a blue front to it.
Well, what all did they carry in the stores?
Well, it's just a general store, just all kind of merchandise. No groceries in the Dobby stores, the West Hammer Dobby, just dry goods and so forth.
Well, how much material did you buy when you came into town?
Well, we'd buy enough material for sheets, pillowcases, and quilts if we quilted, and cotton and just everything in the fall of the year to do us from one fall to the next to quilt and stuff like that, and to make our pillowcases and sheets and so forth.
Well, how many dresses did you usually have?
2. Was as 2 everyday dresses as a rule, and we had the hose back then at 2 pair of lashes all winter long. They were heavy ribbed socks.
Well, did you make all your clothes and household goods?
Well, yes, most everybody made everything. Sheets, even sheets, and I don't know where you could buy ready-made sheets in, and I never seen one anyhow. And pillowcases and so forth, so like mother made them all.
Well, what were the grocery stores like?
Well, I don't remember too much about them, but that store at Keller I was talking about, it had it was a general store. It had groceries and dry goods and everything. You could go over there and just get most anything you wanted to.
Well, is that where you bought your meat?
Yes, when I was small, uh-huh.
Well, how did they have it on the counters? Did they have it in, I don't know, how did they have it?
Well, they had it laying on a table and covered up with a cloth, and you just go in there and buy a big slab of meat. They didn't slice the meat like they do today.
Well, what kind of meat was it? Pork or beef?
Well, we didn't have beef, period. It was salt pork, and I don't even remember my selling smoked meat back them days. It was mostly all salt pork. And most everybody had their own meat, killed their own meat, and had their own lard.
Well, they didn't have any canned food or anything like that.
Not any canned meat. If they did, I didn't see it.
No, I mean canned vegetables.
Well, yes, I think so. I don't know whether we ever got any or not, but I think they did.
Well, do you remember what kind they had?
Corn and kraut and stuff like that. I don't know whether they had any green beans. I don't remember.
Did you have mail order houses?
Well, yeah, Sears and Roebuck, I guess, was then, but we didn't order any. We just didn't know anything about them, but I think there was a Sears and Roebuck back in them days.
Well, what were the schools like?
Well, they were the one I went to up at Graham was a log house, and they had seats had a big log sawed off and a board laid on this log. Now that was our seats. We didn't have no back, no front to put our book on or nothing. Just had to hold our book in her lap.
Well, what kind of books did you have?
Well, just ordinary books, the old blue spell they called them, and the readers and the geography.
Did you have any science or anything? Science
No,
books?
Didn't know what science was, or I didn't.
Well, where did you get your school supplies?
Well, I just don't remember. Unless it was at Graham, I guess it was at Graham.
Well, what were they, just pencil and paper?
Pencils and paper, that's right. We didn't know what slates. We had slates back then days. I don't know. You kids today don't know what that is, but they were grand things. You'd figure up your arithmetic and put it down on this slate, and then you could rub it out. And then you could figure another problem.
Well, that eliminated homework, didn't it?
Well, yes, we didn't have paper to do homework on. We didn't have paper back them days. We just had this slate. We'd figure our arithmetic problem and show it to the teacher. If it was correct, she'd rub it out, and that was it.
Well, did you get report cards?
Yes, back in the later years I did, but when I was real small, I don't remember getting one.
Well, what were they like?
Well, they're so different to what they are today.
Well, tell me about them.
Well, they had their subjects wrote up here, and then whatever you would make, 87 or 97 or what it was, would be like that. They were graded by numbers, 97 or 98 or 89, something like that.
You could get them graded by numbers.
Yeah, not
letters.
by. That's right.
Well, how long did the school last?
Well, it was supposed to last 9 months. 7 months in the winter, and we'd have 2 months in the summer because on account of letting out in the fall to pick cotton.
Well, how early did the schools take up?
Oh, they taken up about 9 o'clock, I guess, because we kids had to walk 3 and 4 miles.
Well, when did you get out usually?
Oh, I say around 3.
Did you take your lunch?
Yes.
Or what'd you have?
Well, we take it in a syrup bucket. We'd tear biscuits and we'd put syrup in a jar, a little cup, and butter and meat, and that was what we had for our lunch.
Well, what'd you carry your lunch in?
A bucket.
A bucket?
Yes.
How did you get to school?
We walked if we went.
Well, did you sometimes ride a horse or anything like that?
Well, we didn't. Some children did, but we didn't have one to ride. We had to walk.
Well, when it was real cold, did you still walk?
We stayed at home.
Oh, you didn't go to school?
It was too bad we didn't go to school.
Well, was the weather cold back in those days?
Oh, yes, we had bad winters, a lot worse than we do today.
Well, did it snow a lot?
Yes, it did. We had deep snows back in them days, and lots of it, and it lasted nearly all winter to compare with of today. Bad snows.
Well, did you ever have any lakes or ponds around you where they froze over and you'd go skating?
Oh, yes. I remember one time we went to a pond, and I was skating, and the tree was out in this pond, and I caught a hold of the limb, and I was skating around there, and directly my hand slipped, and boy, did I ever fall and bust my head open.
Did you have a doctor to doctor it?
No. Back in them days, we didn't know what a doctor was. We just suffered it out and went skating some more.
Well, what did you do when you got sick?
Well, Mother give us black draught, and we had castor oil and salt, and that's all I can remember ever having. We didn't even know what an aspirin was.
Well, did the doctor ever come to your house any?
Well, I know one time I had a chill, and I know Mother put the feather bed on top of me. It was what they called a congestive chill in them days, and I think we had the doctor with us. Old Dr. Davis out here at Newport. I guess everybody around in Ardmore War remembers him.
What kind of sickness or illness did you have back in those days?
Well, measles and mumps and smallpox is about all I can remember.
Well, did you have any of those?
I had them all. I've even got scars on my hand today from the smallpox.
Well, how did the smallpox affect you?
Well, I was rather small. I don't remember, but Mother said they really hurt me because she said I couldn't even stand on my feet. They were so thick on the bottom of my feet.
Well, what'd they look like?
Well, Sue, I don't remember. I was just so small. I just don't know whether well, it's just a solid sore, Mother said, almost. I went.
Did you ever travel any?
Well, we went from Graham to Holdenville one time in a wagon and got up here at Woodford, and we had a balky horse, and he balked right in the middle of the creek with us, and my stepdaddy had to carry all of us kids out of the wagon out on the bank, and Mother, and this horse wouldn't pull nothing. I don't remember now how he got him out of the water, but we got out some way.
Well, how far was it to where you were going?
Well, we were going on up to Holdenville. I'll say 75 or 100 miles from Woodford up here.
Well, how long did it take you to get there?
Well, I believe we were on the road 3 days, 2 nights and 3 days.
Well, did you camp out or what?
Oh, yes, we had camped out, and I never will forget. We was in the spring of the year or summer, and we had roast along road, and we'd stop, and my stepdaddy still roasting theirs.
Well, did you have tents or anything?
No, we had this covered wagon. That's all we slept in the covered wagon and cooked on a campfire.
Well, did you ever travel anyplace else?
No, that's all, I think, I remember.
Well, did you live close to any Indians?
Yes, up near Hannah, Oklahoma, we lived real close to some Indians. In fact, we lived at the back of our field was what they call their stomp dance ground. And they'd play ball, and we'd go up there and watch them. These Indians, they'd build a fire, and they'd have their stomp dance, and they'd go around this here fire and sing and dance and have terrapin shells on their knee with rocks in them. That was their music.
Well, did you ever visit any of these Indians?
Well, not very much. Mother never would let us kids associate with them.
Well, did you ever talk to them or anything?
Well, we learned to talk some of their language, and they learned to talk our language because they'd go to school with us, but of course we wouldn't learn their language as good as they'd learn ours.
Well, did they have teepees or?
Oh, no, they lived in houses just like we did.
Well, what were the houses like? What did they look like?
Well, they were log houses just like we lived in, and the kitchen was all setting off to one side from the other room.
Did you ever go in any of them?
Oh, yeah, we'd go see these people that we live close to. And in fact, those girls, we'd chum with them some. I mean, like I say, they could talk our language.
Well, what were the houses like inside?
Well, they were log houses, no paper, no nothing, just logs, and it was daubed up. The holes were.
Well, did they have any furniture or anything?
Well, just kind of like ourselves, just a bed and maybe a trunk, and that's about it.
Well, what did they dress like?
Oh, they'd put their costumes on sometimes, and then they dressed just kind of like we did, just ordinary dresses.
Well, did they ever go on any warpaths or anything?
Oh, when they'd go up there to hit this stomp dance, they'd have some warpaths.
Did they ever attack anybody?
No, they had got more civilized back then.
Well, what was some of their food? Did you ever taste any of them?
Well, at this campground, they had what they call sopaki. It was a corn that they would raise, and they'd take a big log and make a stump out of it, take a stump rather, and make a big hole in this stump, and they'd take this corn in a maul and kind of beat it up and make what they call sopaki. Cook it and make sopaki.
What did it taste like?
Well, I don't, kind of like hominy, I imagine. I don't remember. I'd have tasted, but I just forgot.
Well, what else did they eat?
Well, I don't know.
Did they go hunting a lot?
Well, yeah, quite a bit, I think.
Well, did you ever learn to speak any of the Indian language?
Yeah, we learned to talk quite a bit then, but I've forgotten a lot of it.
Well, could you tell me some of it? What you learned?
Well, I can count a little bit yet. Humgin, Hokolan, Tachinan, Ostin, Chokeven, Ebogin, Philibogin, Balan, Humginakagan, Balan, Chichinakagan.
Well, did you ever learn any words?
Yes, I learned a few.
Well, what were they?
Well, sweetheart is Fikchumbi. Instead of Fikchumbi, that's hello, sweetheart. Tabanaska's where you going. And Talova is town. Instead of Fikchumbi, Tabanaska, that's hello, sweetheart, where are you going?
Well, did you ever have an Indian sweetheart?
I thought I had one, but he didn't know it.
Well, what was your sweetheart's name?
Harry Factor, and he was a nice-looking Indian boy. He wasn't real dark. I mean, he was real white, and in fact, he was a Seminole, and he was a nice-looking kid, and he was going off to college, but I don't know where he went to colleges.
Well, do you know how old he was?
No, I don't. He was older than I. I figure he was about 17, 18, and I was just 14.
Well, did he go to school with you?
No, his sister did.
Well, what was his sister's name?
I forgot.
Well, what Indians did you live by? I forgot to ask you.
Well, that was these creeks, mostly. And then we did live by some Seminoles, too. But I never did learn none of the Seminoles language.
Just the creek.
Just the creek.
Well, they were really friendly Indians, weren't they?
Yeah, we got along with them just fine.
Well, did the Indians ever play any games? Did they have any games of their own?
Nothing, only this stomp dance. They just have that once a year, and they'd go and stay for 2 and 3 weeks at a time.
Well, where'd they have the stomp dance?
At the back of our field is a great big place. They just had had houses built, and they'd go camping just like we used to back in the way back yonder when the Hard-Shell Baptists would go have their meetings. That'd be kind of like these Indians. They'd go for a summer and stay 3 or 4 weeks at a time, and they had this ground, just a regular stomp ground they called it, and they'd go and they'd dance and they'd play ball, and they just was all kind of entertainment like that.
Well, did they have feathers on their heads?
Oh, yes, yeah. They had this band around their head with feathers on it, and then these tapping shells on the knee was their music they had. That's all the kind of music they had to dance by.
Well, did they holler a lot?
Yeah, they gobbled.
How was statehood celebrated where you lived?
Well, them days I don't think they had much of a celebration. I don't remember it anyhow, and so I just don't know. But we lived back off in the backwoods and didn't have any communication of any kind and no papers back them days, and I just don't remember anything about the statehood celebration.
This was an interview taken by Sue Carol Austin, senior in Ardmore High School in the 1955-56 school